I'm a student success professional, aka academic advisor at Guilford Technical Community College, GTech. And I'm work in the Student Success Center, and I primarily do orientation, which gives me an opportunity to talk to all students from all areas.
Okay. Well, Rodney, we got a couple of questions for you, and first off, let me say I appreciate you doing this. I do.
Well,
my team appreciates it. Okay, the first question. Do the students you work with plan on pursuing additional education at the university level?
Most. We have transfer degree programs that are geared totally towards that option, that the students will get an associate in science, an associate in arts, an associate in fine arts, and also an associate in engineering that's connected with North Carolina A&T's engineering program. So we have 4 programs that are specifically geared towards helping the student get to that next level, leaving out, taking care of all their core classes, and the courses are 100% transferable, so that every course that they take within this program transfers to the colleges in the North Carolina system. We have a matriculation agreement with those universities. So we are the feeder system for the college system in North Carolina.
That's excellent. That's a really good answer. All right. Do many of the students express an interest in graduate school?
Well, let me say this. That's not something that I readily pursue with my students. And the reason being is that a lot of students come in and not really knowing where they want to be. So I try to make their goals very smart, where they're achievable, where they're measurable, where they can actually see some success early. So I go for the early win. I want them to look at advising from my perspective. Let's just do it 1 semester, 2 semesters at a time. Because you have to remember that these are students who may not have put together a plan or have had the best advisement prior to coming into college or a community college setting. And some of them may not be sold on education. So I've got to get them sold on education. So before I can allow them to see themselves with a master's degree or PhD, I need them to see themselves as being a successful student. So I don't reach that far into the future. But some come in and they are sold. They're saying, hey, I want to take these programs, or I'm here to advance in a particular area so I can get in graduate school. I need a certain amount of hours. I need some biology. I need some sciences in order to get into a nursing program or a master's program. So I'm coming here to take those classes because, first of all, they know that they're transferable. They're accredited and they're transferable. And you're saving, in essence, you're paying maybe a third of what you would pay if they took those same classes at some of the universities.
All right, excellent. That you answered the second question I had there. All right. All right. Do you feel that attending a community college is a solid stepping stone for the university-bound student?
Absolutely. And often when I'm doing orientations, I will explain and express to students how ignorant I was financially, that I paid probably $10,000 to $15,000 more for the exact same classes that they're taking going to a private white university. And so to see a student come in and finish up the first 2 years and not be riddled in debt is awesome. And I think that it not only shows the student being intelligent, but it shows them smart in the sense of how to manage their money. And I think the community college does an awesome job of that.
All right, thank you, Rodney. Okay. Well, this kind of falls along with that. Do most of the students you assist, do they feel that they're getting an education equal to that provided by 4-year institutions?
Well, I don't know for sure.
And well, I'm sorry, and
okay.
Specifically the freshman and sophomore years, because if they're in there for the 2-year thing.
Well, here's what you have to look at. What are they comparing it to? Because if you've gone to a 4-year university, and we have that where students transfer in. We have students who maybe didn't cut it, or maybe they found that when they got to UNC or A&T, the costs were too tremendous for them. So now they're in a school like a community college like Guilford Tech, Forsyth Tech, Davidson. They're in one of the many community colleges that are in every county of North Carolina. And they're saying, you know what? Wow, I'm really saving. I'm saving money, I'm getting the same education, and then I'll go back when I'm better suited financially. And that could be something related to their family, their finances, totally out of their control. So the comparison is a somewhat different in what you're asking, because here's a student who has never been to a four-year university, their first time student, their first time college attendee in their family. But what they're doing is they're taking someone's good advice and saying to them, go to the community college, stay close to home, live at home, and make your college experience more affordable to you, so that you're not going for a freshman year and having to drop out because you simply cannot afford it. So affordability is a great part of education, because, you know, what's the use of going a year for a four-year program when you could have taken that same year and gone into a certificate or a technical program and be working in an industry making money that will in turn pay you to go to school? So it depends on your strategy that works for you. What's the strategy of the student? And that's what I try to ask when I'm advising. What's your strategy? What's the end game? Do you want a four-year degree, or you just want to go make some money? Or is there an interest that you have within here? Is there a technical program that we can get you into? As an example, we have a radiography program. It's a 2-year program. Extremely competitive, but guess what? We have some of the best numbers of any school anywhere. We've placed 100% of our graduates into jobs for the last 3 years, and 100% of our students have passed the state board test the first time.
That's impressive.
Extremely impressive.
Okay. I'm glad I came to talk to you. All right. Well, do you feel that community colleges spend more energy guiding students towards vocational programs or towards advanced education?
Well, I would have to say technical programs, because for years that's been our specialty. We are an HR department when a company does not have an HR department, in the sense of we're training people for the workforce. A part of our mission statement is that we work in the community, we work with the communities to make them more employable. So a part of that whole mission is that, first of all, we have Guilford County working. So if it means providing logistics, as we do, logistics program, aviation programs, yes, we're hands down one of the best schools in this area to do that. Now, would that mean that we're focusing more on that than the transfer? Well, we're kind of shifting, because we see the need for that. We see the need of that. We see the need of where our funding's coming from.
Okay, that answers a lot of questions.
Cut right here. All right. Sweetie?
Okay. Are students at the community college level provided with advisement services equal to those of a university?
Actually, better. I will tell you why.
Please tell me why.
Because when I did my undergraduate and I did my graduate degree, I did not get the advice from a long-term perspective. Everything was per semester. It changed. There was a lot of change involved. One year I had this advisor, another year I didn't have an advisor. It constantly changed. Well, on the community college level, we have a program called SSP, and the Student Success Plan. It was a program provided by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they donated a lot of money to community colleges around the country, and Guilford Technical College was the recipient of a great deal of money to put this program in place. And the reason why is because of what you just said. Students need to get advisement, but it needs to be consistent. So what SSP does is it allows you to map out the programs. That's what they call maps. We map out what the student will be taking for 2 semesters. And we agree with it. We talk to the student. We show them how it's with the program, how it works with their schedule, whether they're part-time or full-time. So they leave out of our office being advised, knowing what they have to do. So even if I change jobs and I'm not the advisor anymore, guess what? They've got a map. And we journal in the maps. We journal in the student notes. So if an instructor sees it, if another advisor sees it, if there's a student with disability and they had an IEP in high school or something, then that's noted in there so that it's constant and it follows them. And if something changes, the student can say, hey, well then my map says that I'm supposed to take biology 165, in my second semester. Why are you not recommending that? And then we also know based on the map what courses are going to be offered 2 semesters down. So we don't have the tragedy that I've seen in undergraduate or graduate where a student saying, hey, I need a course and it's not offered. Well, guess what? We know what's offered or need to be offered based on the mapping system. So that's what makes it so tremendous in the fact that our maps and our software system that we use, and the fact that our advisors are trained to be engaging, to engage the students. We have a thing that we do in advising called WAIT. And WAIT is W-A-I-T, and it's an acronym for Why Am I Talking? We want the students to talk. We don't tell the students what they need to be taking. We need them to discover and tell us and talk to us, and then we're able to advise them. Undergraduate, you walk in the office, hey, this is what you need to take it, get out of here next. Here we work an appointment schedule, there's very little wait time, and it's tremendous. So yeah, I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome too, and you've just validated so many things. Okay, well, I'll move on so I don't have to harp on that. Okay, here's what I'm curious about. When you have a student who clearly displays little to no aptitude for higher education, what do you tell them?
Well, let me say this. I have not run across that student that's clearly no, because they wouldn't be here in the first place. So, knowing that a student has signed up for class or has enrolled, gone through admissions, sit through 3 hours of orientation, there's a reason why. Maybe their mother told them, hey, get a job or go to school. I know that there's a glimmer of hope. I have to, as an advisor, motivate them or find that motivation to make it grow. I've got to sell them on the education process, and maybe I got to use my own personal experience. Maybe I got to tell them about, for instance, the radiography program that has such successful numbers. It's a 2-year program that you will actually leave out here making more money than a person who goes to school in a 4-year program. To sell them on that short success. Okay, you're looking for short success, you don't want to be here long, okay, take this 2-year program. It's going to be rigid, it's competitive, but at the end of that program, you're going to be making money while your same buddy that went to UNCG, their parents bought him a car, you're now with a home and a car, and they're still living with their parents at a 4-year university. So again, it's the selling points that they need to know. But this is not new. Other countries are doing this. You know, the reason we're so behind in technology now is because other countries have decided, you know what, we're going to strengthen our K through 12 system, and when a student comes out of there, they can go into a 2-year program with all of their cores they haven't gotten them in high school. Now let me tell you a quick story. I had a student come in who did the middle college, and she actually, in her first semester, she would be applying for the nursing program because she basically completed all her core stuff through the middle college program that we have, linked with the community college system, where kids in high school go into the middle college and they basically can get college credit courses for, guess what, free. Totally free. But yeah, they've got to have the academic record, they've got to have success in there, but they can. So basically what's going to happen is this young lady will be a nurse in 2 years or a year or so because she finished most of her core stuff, her biologies and everything, while she was in the middle college system. You can't beat that. Financially, you can't. A 4-year university cannot touch that. Cannot touch it. It's no comparison.
Excellent information. All right, well, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I've just got a few more.
Sure.
All right. What are some of the biggest problems or concerns students express regarding their decisions to attend a community college?
Okay. They don't have that campus life. They don't have that student life. They don't have that social kind of bond. They don't have those sororities and fraternities and all that. They don't have that. And we have an aviation campus. We have an urban campus. We have a Cameron campus, which are logistics. So sometimes for the students, it's not logistically good for them that they may have 1 or 2 classes or have to take a class on a campus that's further away from them. As opposed to that 4-year university, most everything's going to be right there in that one area. So there's I guess there's a scatter of locations that can sometimes hinder or challenge a student to get to these classes, especially if they do not have adequate transportation, Where with the university, you drop them off in the day, they're there all day, they have stuff to do, they go home, that's fine. Or they live there on premises. We don't have that. So that's one of the hindrances. But the amount of money that you save, the convenience of that, the I guess what I said, the community aspect of our instructors and the culture of trying to help students, I believe in my heart that it outweighs all of that. So those things that challenge them, yes, they're going to be challenges with anything. No system's perfect, but I think that we do such a great job in helping our students, giving them resources, giving them the ability of transportation, offering classes, day, night, evening, online classes. It helps overcome some of those things. So if you can't make it, we got an online program. Or campus may be closer to your house, meaning that you live in one side of town. Okay, most of your classes are in that part of town. So I think it's a two-edged sword in that. Our challenge for one could also be a luxury or an advancement for another.
Okay. I have an additional question regarding that. You said that transportation is provided in some form.
Yes.
What about incoming students or students, period, who have child care issues?
Well, that's also, now another thing about, let me get back to SSP. In our SSP program, we have a listing of resources. So whether it's child care, substance abuse, tutoring, whatever, we make those sources available to you and very confidential. So you don't have to come in to advise, say, hey, I got child care issues. We have the resources, you sign up for them, someone contacts you, or the agency is, and if there's agency funding and everything, we help you get that funding. We help you get those resources. We will help you contact the agency. We will help you fill out the forms if necessary. We don't disperse the monies, but we also help make that happen for you.
Okay.
So that's a great plus. And that's something that we have to address to the students and make them aware of when they come in the door, because they may not always know that these resources are available. But again, the software system, this SSP system that we utilize, is tremendous in helping to get that message out there.
That's excellent information. Excellent. Okay, two more, we're done. Now, with the high immigration numbers so prevalent in our modern community college setting, do you feel that all students are being given an equal opportunity to reach their academic goals in a timely manner?
Well, when you say the high immigration, here's my most complete answer and most transparent answer to this question. I don't know when a student is an immigrant or not, unless there's a visa hole that I see on their file which is stopping them. I don't know if a student's an immigrant. I may know that from first glance that they may be non-native speaking, but I can't truly, without a shadow of doubt, say yes, that's an immigrant. I don't know. We don't filter our students in that way. So when a student comes in and they're in a program, and let me give you an example. If they're in a faculty or if they're in a technical program, say like auto mechanics or heating and air conditioning, we assign them to faculty coaches who are familiar with that area of study. If they're in a transfer degree program like arts or associate of arts or general education program, then they're assigned to a student success professional. So in that sense, if a student is in, say, auto mechanics, then someone from the auto mechanics area will advise them. So they're getting the best advisement they can get, bar none, because that's someone working in a profession who has connections to get them jobs, networking, and everything in that profession. So in that sense, there is no difference between whether you're an immigrant student or not, because a lot of times we don't have access to that information to even know that the student's an immigrant. We're not asking those questions.
All right, good to know. All right, my last one. Now, I know you're a father now.
Yes.
Now, as a parent who has every intention of seeing your child graduate from a university with a degree someday, would you be comfortable with them securing their first 2 years of higher education at the community college?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if I have to foot the bill, I'd almost demand it. But let me say this to you. I have a son who was in a four-year university playing sports, did not do well, and he had to go back to a community college in order and effort to build his GPA, to get his grades up, to get back in that four-year school. Now that he's in that two-year school and he's working and everything, he totally enjoys it, and he actually says, Dad, I wish I had done this first. because he's better suited now. He's more mature about what he needs and how he needs it. And the convenience of the classes allows him to work and allows him to go to school, and he's not as stressed. Now, let me give you another very personal part. I have a daughter who's serving time in the North Carolina penal system for women. She has completed 2 degrees through Wake Tech. One in culinary arts and one in cosmetology. So what does this say to me? That at the end of her prison sentence, she will have 2 areas of job skills that she can work. Meaning that I will not have to support her long, or if any, and society will not have to support her. And that was provided through a community college education that's in connection with our Department of Corrections. You're not going to get that with a 4-year university. So when you say community college, you're talking the entire community, not just an elite set of people. I think what community college does is, and you're going to, this term, hegemonic, it eliminates that sense that you know, that we have an elite class, that we have a section of our society who deserves an education, one who does not. Community college provides that. It does that. Again, so much of what I do as an academic advisor in orientation is I have to sell education. And I tell you, I've sold other products, and I don't think there's a better educational product to sell than a community college. You will not get around the fact that it is cheaper. You cannot get a fact around that it's convenient. But you know what? You can't get around the fact that our programs now are 100% transferable. So why would you go to a 4-year university and pay extreme amount of money to get the same exact education at a 2-year school or a 2-year community college? Doesn't make dollars, and it doesn't make sense.
That is excellent. Excellent information. Rodney, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it, sir. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. G-Tech. There you go.
There you go. I'm going to get out your house now.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Lewis. I am an associate professor of social work and global studies here at A&T. This is my 9th year.
I'm Devaney Taylor, and I'm a graduate student in the adult education program. So, Dr. Lewis, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about your experience here as a faculty member and about the transfer students from community colleges.
Sure.
So my first question is, do you feel that students who come to you with future plans for graduate school are less likely to succeed if they attend a community college?
No, I think that they're more likely to succeed.
Can you say why?
Yeah, because I think that there are situations that, not everybody, for everybody, but for a large group of people, it's non-traditional, and young people or people who may have immigrated here, they have some basic skills that community college can offer that we at the 4-year level don't have the time and the opportunity to offer. And so when they have those basic skills, then they're slowly building that, and some people just need that opportunity, and I think that it really helps them a great deal. Community college is a little smaller than a 4-year college too, so for some people it's easier to get from a smaller place and then build up to a bigger place.
Okay, that was a good answer. I didn't think about it that way. I would have thought that the students that had been in the 4-year institutions, because typically the quote-unquote truth of it is professors at a university are more knowledge than professors at a community college, which is some things that we've read in our articles this past semester. And so they're saying that those students are getting a better education and are more prepared for the rigorousness of grad school versus students who did the 2 years at the community college and then come to the university and then have hopes of going to grad school. They're saying that those community college students are less prepared because their professors are less knowledgeable.
Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, maybe they don't have because they don't require PhDs.
Okay.
But I'm talking about teaching skills, and sometimes I think that there's more resources, supportive resources for students in the community college than there are here.
I agree.
And so I think that extra support would add. So, then they got 2 years that they can, 2 to 3 years that they can be in their 4-year college with PhDs, and sometimes PhD doesn't make you a good teacher.
I agree. So, do you feel that students with a community college background leave the program more often than students who attended a 4-year university?
The transfer students that I have worked with, I'm trying to think back over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a single one left.
Wow.
And I have. Although in social work we really have worked very hard, and our retention is very high in the unit compared to the rest of the university. So we really work hard with students, and we do an extra step, a lot of extra step in advising and things like that. But there hasn't been anybody who came from community college that left.
That's interesting.
And
that
didn't,
say that.
like we had people who were sick or had a birth baby, or things like that, and they would have taken time off, but then they came back. Some of them have then difficulties with financial aid because of transfer credits and stuff like that, but they end up coming back in different ways. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a nice flow. I mean, they have their own issues that come up, but
they tend to stay more so than the students who come straight from high school to the university. Right. And you're saying the community college students, the transfer students, tend to stay because they've already been in this atmosphere a little bit, so the program isn't as rigorous for them.
Yeah, they begin to understand what do I need to know, and what is expected of me to think about, and I can write a little bit better now. I learn how to write, and so much of what you do, at least in social work and global studies, is just self-reflective and really being able to write and express yourself verbally. So that becomes very important, and they've already had training in that.
Absolutely. Okay. In your experience, do community college students or transfer students tend to be more or less driven than the 4-year students coming straight from high school to the university?
More
driven. And is it because of what you just stated in your last question, that they kind of already have an idea of what's expected?
They would have dropped out from community college. So these are the people that stuck, and so these are the people that are staying. These are the people that have learned what they need to learn in order to begin to be successful. And mostly they come with a higher GPA.
Makes sense.
Because the ones that don't, we don't see. Because they don't come. They drop out before, or they get their associates and they say, thank gosh, this is over. And that's the end.
So those ones that come over with the higher GPAs, they tend to do better in your classes versus your normal traditional university students that never went to community college.
Overall.
Right. Yeah.
There's always exceptions.
Absolutely.
There's always exceptions, and some people, but whether it comes from a community college or transfer, it's the same thing. So it doesn't. They may have come from a 4-year school somewhere else, and they came here, or it may have been another one in another state. It may not have been the one here.
Okay. If a community college transfer student has been advised and tracked properly, do you expect them to form?
No, I'm not. Just keep going.
Do you expect them to perform at the same level as a 4-year student?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I expect that they're going to be able to do it. Sometimes there's some elements they don't have, and so then that's in part of advising. Or as an instructor, that's part of the ones you're going to help them try to grow and develop. But I mean, everybody grows and develops at different times and different ways. So some, they have the same expectations as someone, not as a newcomer, but as a person at the level that they're at. But you take into account that this is the first year, so it takes a while to get your feet on the ground and know and learn the culture of this school.
So do you, as far as advising goes, in your experience with your transfer students, once they get here, do you feel that they have been advised and prepared properly to come to the university, or?
Mostly. I mean, there are some things that they felt hasn't gone right, but there's certainly enough here that students feel doesn't go right in terms of advising. So, and they're really willing to. I really appreciate the fact that the school's willing. A&T is willing to let us bring in more than just the basic courses.
Okay.
So,
That helps us.
because the community college actually has some wonderful, for social work, has some wonderful programs that we don't have on addiction and family crisis and trauma, and we don't have that because I don't know why, but it would be great if we could, but we just don't have enough teachers.
Okay.
So to have classes. So I just think and give it to me. Good. Let's bring this stuff in. Let's fill up all of our electives with this stuff. This stuff is good stuff.
Absolutely. And then are you able to use those experiences that your community college transfer students have for those classes that we don't have, to kind of give your other students a little bit of knowledge about those classes? Are you able to use their experiences to do that?
Not directly.
Okay.
I haven't ever used that, but certainly I'll notice that there are, because for the courses I teach, I'll teach on trauma, I'll teach on loss and grief, I'll teach on addictions, things like that. That's all part of it. And the folks who have some background in it will tend to share more in class discussions.
Absolutely.
And then they might be a leader of a group, but because they've had that course and the others don't, and it's not like we just haven't had the opportunity to do that.
Okay. When you look at the community college transfer students versus the 4-year students, do the community college transfer students overall require more advising to be successful than the 4-year students, or you don't see a difference?
In the beginning,
Because
they have a lot of transfer credits, and so it takes a lot of time to go through and say, okay, this is equivalent to this and this is equivalent to this. The university does the basics, and then they send it off to your advisor in the school or the program the student's in. And they say to me as an advisor, okay, so you have to you look at, you know what your topic is, and you know what you can accept out of this.
Okay.
And there's a lot of pressure to put in from the school, because we have an agreement that if someone comes in with an associate, we should be, to the best of our ability, trying to get them out in an additional 2 years, because they have an associate, and then it's just a BSW,
Yes.
So they should be able to get out in 2 years. Part of the difficulty is that with a licensable degree like social work or nursing, you have an outside accreditation body, and so they're saying these are the courses that the student must take and must complete with a C or better, and for us you have to keep a 2.6. So so it's better than a C. You need to get some A's in there.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, you have to do it in a certain order. You can't take C before you take A.
Right.
You have to do A, B, C,
Right.
and because it's a licensable degree. So in order to do that, it takes about 2.5 years, unless we put the whole 2 years of the beginning social work together, and they can take all 4 of those courses. But mostly that's what we were able to do, and mostly that works very well.
So outside of their advising as far as bringing their transfer credits in and looking at their classes, I know earlier you stated something about advising them beyond that and giving them more support and kind of going above and beyond your duties to help them matriculate through the program successfully, do they tend to need more help in those areas as far as their outside life and anything outside of academics versus your 4-year students?
No, once they're here and we get that time-consuming credit thing done, and we get it through all the hoops within the system that you got to get it through, they're like other students.
Especially the normal advising that everybody else gets.
But no one is similar.
Right.
Every person I have is different. So, some people sit here and talk oodles with me, and I'm like trying to get them out because I got another appointment. And so they want to share a whole bunch of things. And they come for all sorts of different reasons. But other students
But the stigma that community
can hardly sit in the chair long enough, they can't get rid of me fast enough.
So the stigma that community college transfer students needing more assistance and support at a university, you would disagree with?
Well, right. Because they've already got it. If they were able to take those basics, they got it. And if they're successful in school and they are now transferring, and you got to transfer with at least a C into A&T, and they don't accept D's, so those courses are gone. So in order for them to do that and be successful at that, they have to have learned something, and so they're coming prepared.
Getting down to the last few questions.
Yeah.
Does a community college transfer student receive the same level of inherent respect extended to a 4-year university student at program end?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think by the end you don't even remember who was a transfer student and who wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I will when I do graduation clearance, because I look at all and I say, holy mackerel, that's right, you were a transfer student and you have 20 credits. I have to go and do the whole substitution math so to clear you for graduation. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a half an hour little baby job instead of 10-minute one.
But without looking at that, you see all your students the same across the board. It doesn't make a big difference that they transferred in.
I don't. And maybe it's just I'm not observant enough. But no, I don't.
Do community college transfer students display an affinity for campus activities such as SGA or homecoming events, or do they routinely ignore them in order to focus on their actual education? Because the stigma behind that is most students come from high school to the university to get the fellowship, so to speak, part of the university, versus the community college students who are mainly, in most studies, they're focused solely on the education and academic part of it, not so much the extracurricular activities.
I would say rather than transfer students, you have traditional and non-traditional students, and I would say that that's more the breakdown of that than it is for transfer students. Now, because I think the non-traditional students are much more focused, and their activities and parties and friends are back home, and they have families and they're working. I mean, still, the traditional students can be doing the same thing, but they're still in their adolescence and their early adulthood, and they're still doing what they're doing, and the brain doesn't really develop till around 25. So, on average, so a traditional student is more usually engrossed in their work, more than a transfer, per se, as a transfer.
Okay.
That's my experience.
But my last question for you, as a parent who has every intention of seeing your child graduate from university with a degree someday, would you be comfortable with them securing their first 2 years of higher education at a community college?
Yeah, my youngest did that.
Okay. Was there a reason why?
Yeah, he hated school. He was probably my brightest kid. He absolutely hated school. He hated it. So he went to community college and for 1 year, and then dropped out, and then made pizza. And then they were going to give him a store, and he said, I don't want to make pizza for my life, and so he finally went back to school. but he was 20-some years old, like 24 or 5, and he said, the one thing I want to do is live in a dorm. So he, at 24, 25, we lived in a dorm at the school for one semester when he said he was too harassed by the kids to go out and buy him beer. So, then he had his own apartment. But he continued to think that the community college was a good help for him.
That's awesome. Is it because of the support that you mentioned earlier that you feel they have more of that versus the university? That he might have felt that way?
No, he didn't do well in community college.
Mm-hmm.
He still hated it. But he needed time. He needed time to develop and grow. And he has a learning disability, and they thought he was hyperactive. I just thought he was an active, healthy kid. So,
Yeah.
But by the time he got a certain age, things started. So I think, personally, I think it'd be great if we give our kids a couple years, 3 years gap year.
Yeah.
And that not be, that they can work and do volunteer work.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I don't think they're quite ready.
So, I guess.
So no, I don't notice any difference between community college students on that or compared to 4 years. It would be the non-traditional, traditional.
And from the first question, you said you think they're more likely to be successful and going to graduate school. So you would recommend a student doing the community college experience first and then coming to the university?
Would I recommend it?
Yeah.
I'd recommend it. Yeah. If they had, it depends. I mean, it depends on where they are in terms of their excitement about going to school.
Uh-huh.
If they had some difficulties and they came here, they're not going to get the same support. It's just not. We have tutors, but there's too much else going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to get the same as they're going to get if they go to community college. So, and if they're not sure that this is really what they want to do, but they know that society says that they should do it, well, then it's cheaper to go and give it a try at community college than it is at a 4-year college, and then you got all that debt to pay back.
I was waiting on you to say that.
Yep, all that debt to pay back. So
I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to interview with me.
Nice questions.
I didn't have any struggles coming from high school, and I came straight here. But
yes.
As you mentioned, social work department is excellent in being supportive. Because once I got here, then I got a child and became a mother and had a family and all these other things. So you guys did excellent, and I thank you so much for helping us.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, heck.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is George McCormick. I work in the graduate school here at North Carolina A&T State University. My official title is STAR Associate. STAR stands for Student Transition and Retention Associate within the graduate school. My responsibilities are to the School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering, the School of Technology, and the School of Ag and Environmental Sciences. I basically handle students who are interested in graduate school from prospect to applicant to degree clearance. So I handle from beginning to the end a student who's coming to graduate school, also answering questions, and the main recruiter within the graduate school.
Well, George, my name is Devaney. Thank you for meeting with us today, and I just have a few questions I want to ask.
Sure.
So do you feel that students who come to you with future plans for graduate school are less likely to succeed if they came from a community college?
No, I think that students, each pathway is different. Even though you started at community college, there's several factors you have to look at why a person started at community college. Mm-hmm. It could be finances, it could be not academically prepared but needing some more groundwork. But basically by the time they get to me in a graduate school, I'm not necessarily looking at what they did in community college, because some people will take community college level courses while they're doing undergraduate work. So for me, I don't think they're less prepared. I just think it gives them more, makes them better prepared in some fashions when they get to me in graduate school.
Awesome. Do students with community college background leave the program more often than students who attended a four-year university?
That's hard to say because from what I do, and I don't think anyone's really tracking that information right now. So to be fair and to answer that question, I would have to say that there's not a correct answer for it just yet.
Okay. And in your experience, do community college transfer students tend to be more or less likely driven than four-year students?
It depends. And again, most students that I will see when they get to me, coming from a community college, will be, I would call the adult learner. And they may have been out of high school for some time and they went to the community college, then came to undergrad, got a degree. And so I would say in a sense, yes, some of them will be probably better prepared. And I can look at a transcript and I can see, well, some may have struggled at the community college, but by the time they get to me, they're more focused and they know what they want to do.
Okay. Because the stigma with it is the four-year students are more so at the university for the student activities versus the academics. And so in the research studies and the articles that are being published, they're looking at community college students coming to the university are more focused and more so want the academic part of it more so than the college experience or the student activities.
Right.
So they're more likely to succeed in graduate school and they have a higher retention than the four-year students. Because they kind of get burnt out or aren't really fully prepared because they've been a little distracted by everything else that the university has to offer.
I would say that most times when a student has had their community college experience, from what I've seen, and I'm not giving you factual data,
Right.
but in the applicants and the communications I have when I'm out recruiting or dealing with a student on the phone and when I get transcripts, those students to me are the ones who are going to be better prepared to exceed because they've had some additional educational to come along with just a student who's coming right out of high school straight into undergrad. And most students, by the time they come out of undergrad, I find that they really don't know why they need to go to graduate school, what's the purpose of graduate school. A person who's got community college experience, it's like they're on a pathway and they understand that I started at community college, I've got to a four-year degree, and now the end game is probably for me a terminal degree. So for them, I think they're more engaged and prepared, ready for graduate school.
As a four-year student who didn't do community
That
college
is
first,
correct.
I totally agree with you.
That's correct.
If a community college transfer student has been advised and tracked properly, do you expect them to perform at the same level you would that four-year student who came straight from high school?
I think if they've been prepared, they're more disciplined probably. Because again, coming out of high school into college, that's a big transition. But if you go to community college, so you're already in that setting where you somewhat are working a little bit more independent than you would in a high school setting. So leaving a community college, now coming into a four-year school, because typically you're only going to have 2 more years to do to get a full bachelor's degree. And that's the other unique thing about starting a community college. You transition, coming to a school like A&T, you bring a minimum of 64 hours with you. So if you got an associate's degree, you're coming to here, you're really just doing your junior and senior. And so you know that going in, I only have 2 years left. And then with that, you're better prepared, I believe, academically, independently, socially. And so I think you will be the one who will be better prepared to transition coming into graduate school in some instances.
Okay. Do community college transfer students require more overall assisting and advising to be successful?
No. You got to remember, they've already had 2 years of experience being advised. So for them, it's just a different academy or academic setting. So they understand the process of seeing an advisor. They understand the process of registering for classes. It's just a different arena as far as the university is concerned of how they may go about registering. And most universities are somewhat the same, where it's online to do your registration. So they have that kind of process down, but each school may be different on how that looks during the registration. But they have an upper leg on a student who's coming straight out of high school, where they sat down with their family and their guidance and counselor and said, these are the classes I want to take, and a schedule is printed for them. You're coming from a community college, you're used to sitting down with an academic person who's actually telling you, these are the courses you need to take to finish this degree. So by the time they get to the four-year school, they have 2 years under their belt. They understand someone's going to sit down with me and give me some type of curriculum that says these are the remaining 64 hours. Typically, that's what they need to finish that four-year degree. And then by the time they get to graduate school, it's a little different because, again, you're independent, but you're still being advised.
What about the advising that goes beyond the academics, the other support where the advisor has to, I guess, advise them into their personal lives and social lives outside of the academic for them to be successful academically? Do you think that the community college students require more assistance in that area, or the four-year students?
I think the community college student would need less because typically they're either on some kind of diploma track, certificate track, leaving there, and so they understand if they want to be more marketable or gain more employment or more income, they've already been advised this is what it's going to take to get there. What a person coming straight out of undergrad, they just basically, I went to college, I've taken classes, unless that's a student who's very independent and very focused, they don't know how to ask those questions to the advisor or to the support services to say this is what I need, because again, you got to remember, 4 years, then you get to your senior years, like, okay, I'm ready to graduate, but it's not, okay, what do I do with my diploma? I know I want a job. A person with a community college degree says, I'm building upon to make myself more marketable, and they understand what the end game will be. And so I still say, when the way you're framing a lot of your question, I think that the community college student in some facet will be better prepared, will be able to work more independent, and will be able to get to the end game faster than the student who's coming straight out of high school into a four-year institution and then thinking about what do I want to do with graduate school, or why I need to go to graduate school. So in what I do, if I meet a student, I'm talking to, I try to frame that question for them to help them understand that, you know, it's fine that you have a degree in biology, but what are you going to do with a degree in biology?
Absolutely.
A student with a social degree, social arts and science, and something come out of the community college understands, you know, I'm going to A&T or going to a four-year school, finish that bachelor's degree in biology, but the end game is I'm already looking at pharmacy school. I'm looking at med school down the road or something else. So they have an upper leg, even though they started at a smaller institution, smaller support, and, you know, maybe not the bands and the athletics and all those other things, but it's more academic focused, I believe, at the community college, because at a four-year school you have so much to offer the student that some students, unless they've been driven when they leave high school to understand 4 years professional school or graduate school, a lot of them is like in their senior year.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not ready to go to the workforce. I think I want to go to graduate school. What do you have to offer? Hadn't done their due diligence, hadn't done their homework to understand what it's going to take to get there. And for me, as I said, recruiter, working with prospect students, applicants, clearing for graduation, I see all of it now. So when I'm talking to a student, whether they're coming out of community college, you know, they kind of know how to move forward. But typically when I'm running into students who are sophomore, I start trying to shape that conversation with them, help them understand what it's going to take to get to graduate school, why it's important to go to graduate school. And there is a difference, you know, just going to get a master's versus going to a professional school, which is law, which is med school, which is going to seminary, going to professional school, because you're going to get your master's or Jewish doctorate, but that's kind of really it when you finish, right, versus going on to get the master's of arts, science, fine arts, and then on to get a PhD or EDD. So.
Okay. So dwindling down to the last couple of questions, and I think you might be able to answer these pretty easy because of your answers to the other ones. Does the community college transfer student receive the same level of inherent respect extended to a four-year university student at program end?
They do, because you really don't know which one is the difference between the community college and the four-year student unless they kind of disclose that to you. Now the advisor would know because they're looking at a student's transferable hours.
Right.
So they know I'm not sitting here talking to a true freshman. This person has some collegiate experience, so they should understand how this should work. Whereas you're sitting there with a student who's a freshman, now they're a sophomore, and depending on the department, how the advisement work, you know, you may have an advisor who just, like I said, that's my duties to advise you. I teach classes. Whereas you got someone at community college, they're going to have a different conversation with their advisor because they're pushing the advisor to make sure, am I on track to do this? You know,
right,
am I doing this to get to there? So the community college student should have a different conversation, in my view, than just a traditional undergraduate student.
Now, do you feel, I guess with that question in terms of them having the equal level of respect, if you are or know of business owners or anyone who's looking to hire this person and transcripts are required in that, such as Gift County schools, they require a transcript for certain positions, do you think it makes a difference when they say, okay, this student just went to A&T for 4 years, this student went to GCCC first, then went to A&T, so do you think they're going to get the same level of respect when looking at that?
I don't think the employer is looking at that, because the employer is looking for, of course, a transcript that shows the students academically taking the right kind of courses to be prepared for this particular job or program.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's up to the student to understand what the employer is looking for and be able to sell them academically, I'm prepared to take on this job. So a person who's going to community college has the same capacity, because again, they started out here, did 2 years, came over here, and this person, by the time they got to a junior, so they're right with each other, and they should finish together, because you're bringing 64, by the time you get to 64, so you finish together. The only thing that I would say different is for the employer is to, maybe inquire some questions, going back, why they start out at community colleges, or, being able to say, what has that transition been for you to community college to a 4-year school, where a person coming straight out of high school, that's all they've known. This person, non-traditional student, may have family, may have some other obligations where they can speak on how to take on more and multiple responsibilities by being a community college student. Whereas the employer sitting there now says, this is someone I'm probably not going to have to hold hands with to train. This is probably someone who's going to be committed to the end, who's probably going to be here for a while. 4-year student may be the one who's looking, not saying the right things, and say, well, this person, yes, I have to train, but they're probably going to be here within transition. Mm-hmm. Probably not be here long, probably looking for something else, but they're looking for employment right now. So I think, in a sense, it's also up to the student to sell themselves to the employer of why you need me to be in your company, and let the employer then say, I need you to be in my company. Because I always tell students, at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. Mm-hmm. In the workforce, it's about the bottom. They're looking for, who can I bring in that will maintain my bottom line as far as revenue, but at the same time, whatever service and products I'm doing, they're educated enough to understand how to continue to produce or bring value added to my company or to this job that's going to keep the bottom line going forward.
So the overall stigma that if you went to community college first and I didn't, but we both have the same degree, mm-hmm. neither one of us is better, because the overall stigma in the research papers and in the text, it's always comparing mm-hmm. That stigma of saying that student that went just those straight 4 years is more appeasing. Or
I like to look at it this way. I tell students, you come to A&T, you get a bachelor's in biology, you get a 4.0. You go to Duke, Chapel Hill, and no respect to any of these schools, you can go to Harvard or Columbia and get a BS degree in biology. What's the difference? It's the papers printed on.
Right.
If you have done the due diligence in the academic arena, getting mentors to help you be better prepared, it's the same degree on a piece of paper sitting there talking to the employer. One would have probably advised you better on what companies look for and how to prepare yourself when you're sitting there, versus someone who has just a degree and that's all they know. I got a 4.0 and I should be important. It's not about that, because there's so many different other things you just may not get at one school that you'll get another. Now I'll bring it back to A&T. A&T is one of the few institutions that I know that mm-hmm. even though it has a rich history, but it has a connection where it does try to prepare those students to go out in what we call the global world, the global economy, mm-hmm. where a few years back, we had chancellors telling students in their freshman orientation, how many of you have passports? If not, you need to get your passports. Why? Because they're preparing them so when you leave here as an engineer, your job as an engineer may not be in the United States. It may be in China. It may be in Africa. It may be in a third world country. But we're preparing you just like the same person who's at Harvard, who has connections, or the Columbias, or the Chapel Hills, or the States, whereas the paper alone, the employer may get excited because they went to Chapel Hill, but this student saying, I have the same credentials and this is why you need me. So coming back to the question of the community college student, he's got a little bit more in his bag of tricks, I believe, or her bag of tricks, to help them to understand. I think at the end of the day, I'm more well prepared than a person who just got a 4-year degree. Even if that student left the 4-year school to go back to the community college through academic reasons to come back, they're still better prepared because now they understand what it's going to take to succeed. So the stigma of the community college, and I think that went away probably in the late 80s, because it was looked at, you went to a community college for a trade school just to go right into the workforce. Right. Whereas now, the degrees and the programs that are coming out of the community college are preparing people just as those who now have 4-year degrees. And the difference is you have an AS or AA versus a BS or BA, but academically are almost coming out equivalent. 2-year versus the 4-year. But you come to this 4-year school to get the rest of some things you wouldn't get at a community college. So, but I think the dialogue now is much different in the new millennium of a person coming out of a community college is more prepared. I hope what does not happen though in my lifetime, that the 4 institution becomes irrelevant and the community college is more relevant.
And the thing with that is, now that you say that that stigma went out in the 80s that the degree was better or there was a difference in it, the stigma now is the professors aren't as educated, or the university professors are more research-based, so they're not really paying attention to their advising or to their teaching, because all of that comes secondary to the research. So now they're saying the community college students, and some are saying the community college students are getting a better education because their professors are more just focused on the academics, and others are saying, well, these professors have PhDs and these professors have all this research knowledge, so their students are more knowledgeable than the community college students.
I think it also has to do with, and all schools are challenged with this, I think it comes from your provosts, your deans, all the way down to making sure that your professors they have balance. And I know all institutions are strapped now with funding and so many other things, so you have professors doing multiple things, advising and required to do research and do journals and to do grants. So when it comes to advising the student, that's like low on the priority. This student's going to get some advice, but they're not going to get the advisement they probably need. So a lot of institutions have gone to now start looking at what's called advisement centers, where it frees the professor up to really teach, do research, and the things that you've required him to do as a tenured faculty. And then let the academic center or the advisement center do the advisement piece. Whereas, like I said, then that professor's freed up. But I think it all hinges on from top down, being able to see that. So at the end of the day, the student doesn't fall to the cracks, and the student is still properly advised and prepared and be able to get with mentors to be able to do quality research. Because most institutions that have the higher accreditations are research institutions. And when you look at it, they're brand who they are. If they have research, high intense research, then that's typically what they're supposed to be doing. Even though you have your bachelor's degrees, but they have masters and PhDs and EDDs, where those programs should be looked at upon as institution and programs that produce a lot of research. And that's why you don't have it at the community college, because again, you're just getting the basics. When you get to the 4-year schools and in graduate school, it's a little bit more intense with that research focus. There are not too many institutions that are not world renowned if they're not research focused. And that's what draws the best professors. When they know they can go into the academy or go to that institution and they're going to be respected in their areas of expertise, but they are able to still continue to do research. When you're just put in a classroom just to teach, you know, and I don't have a PhD, but again, I work with a lot of people and I'm working at grad school. That's not the focus of why they went and got a PhD. They didn't just get a PhD so they can get to teach. You went and got that terminal degree because you want to, say, I want to add to the academy, and that's getting your PhD. But while you're in there, you continue to do research to change what's in the academy.
Absolutely.
So
do you think that community college transfer students display an affinity for campus activities such as SGA or homecoming events, or do they routinely ignore them to focus on their actual education?
I don't have the answer to that one, and I think it comes with the institution, making the student feel that they're just as important as the one who's straight out of high school came. It's just like in the graduate school, you know, you come to get your graduate degree, you may be a professional student, you may be a mom or dad who, you know, all you need to do is just come and get your degree. You don't have time for all those things, but you still need to have those other not assets, but other social programming entities for them, so they can say they had a full, well-rounded experience at that institution.
Absolutely.
You know, I did mine, and most of us like this, you know, I did my undergrad here at A&T, so I got the full undergrad A&T experience. Well, I left here with the seminary, which was in Shaw. Well, Shaw University has other undergrad programs, but I was in the seminary, so I didn't really necessarily connect with those other programs, but if I wanted to, they were there for me. If I wanted to go to football games, I wanted to be in, as a matter of fact, I was in Student Government Association. I was the treasurer in graduate school for my when I was in seminary. So I experienced some of those things, and we have that here at A&T. And so we want students to have the full-fledged experience. You may not have started out undergrad here, but when you leave here, we want you to be just like a student who was an undergrad student to get the full, and because you pay it in your fees.
Yeah.
And so some things you pay for are required to, so you might as well be exposed to it. And now if you choose not to be exposed to it, that's on you as a student, but it should be there for the student.
Awesome. And lastly, as a parent who has every intention of seeing your child graduate from university with a degree someday, would you be comfortable with them securing their first 2 years of higher education at a community college versus going straight to the university?
I think it depends on the student. If the parent really knows their child and knows that that child is not truly prepared to go to a 4-year school and to be away from home, because that's a big transition, I wouldn't encourage that child, or I wouldn't force that child to go just because you need to go to a 4-year school, because what you're doing, you're setting them up for failure. Some children today, and just not today, but in past, I think parents thought that the child should just go to a 4-year school, get the degree, and go on with life, whereas socially they were not socially prepared. They could have stayed home or stayed within the community, went to the community college, got it down, whereas what it looks like to not be in high school, being around adults, you know, somebody else telling you to do this and that, and then when they left there, they were ready. So it's not, and I always used to tell students when I used to work in undergrad, you're not left behind. It's just that if you can't get into a 4-year school, go ahead and go to your 2-year school, because you're going to bring all that coursework with you when you're in the UNC system, as long as you made, you know, C's or better. So you bring that with you. So even though you have a friend who graduates with you in 2015 and you didn't have the grades, or you weren't really prepared to go to a school like A&T, go to the community college in your area, because when you get your 64 hours, you got your associate's degree, you come in, you've already got 1 degree, but you're right there with your friends who graduated you 2 years ago. So you actually now can finish your bachelor's together. But again, this student is going to come prepared to stay on task. They already know I'm only 2 years in.
Right.
And I got 2 years to go, so I'm going to keep going. This person may still be floundering, and you've caught up with them, and you can actually almost graduate before that.
Right.
But at least you have that first degree, which is the associate degree.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate all your input and taking the time to interview with me today.
No
It was
problem.
a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Hello, my name is Manuel Dudley. I'm the Dean of the Greensboro campus, where I've served as Dean for 3.5 years.
And I'm Devaney, and we'll go ahead and get this started. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to interview with us and for meeting with us on last night on the panel.
Sure, enjoyed it. It was a
It
good
was
panel.
awesome.
You
It
guys
really
had
was.
some great questions. You really put us on guard.
Thank you.
All right.
I wanted to start off by asking you, do you think the students you work with plan on pursuing education at the university level?
I think most plan on it, but I don't think most are really prepared for it.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I don't think they have, and I know this is kind of a bad thing to say, but I don't think some students have a true understanding of what it takes to be successful on the 4-year level. So that's why they come to us, and we assist them with that.
Okay.
But I think most have the desire or aspiration, but as far as having the skills, that's where we come in.
Okay. So in one of the articles that we read this semester, it said that students transferring from a community college to a university were more likely to succeed, graduate, and attend graduate school versus that 4-year student who never came across the community college. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that.
Okay.
That is 100% true.
Okay.
Once they come to us, they're much more prepared than they would have been.
I asked that question because I'm your non-traditional student. When I got to A&T, I was not a parent, but after being there for, I want to say my sophomore year, I ended up having my daughter. And so it was kind of hard, and you get all of these, well, you might want to drop out, you might want to just leave for a while. I never took a break. I didn't stop. It was hard, but the support wasn't there. So on the panel last night, Ms. Free discussed the support outside of the academics that she gives to her students to understand them, which in one of the articles they used a term called other mothering, and how that came from slavery with with families being separated, and then you kind of taking on the role for that child. And so they're saying that African American professors are doing that for their students because it's a very vital piece to them succeeding in higher education as a whole. So when she said that, I'm like, that would have been so much easier for me, because I looked at the community college with the social stigmas of it's not that great, it doesn't look good to go there. And so when I moved from Michigan, it was straight to A&T for me. But I think it would have been a lot easier support-wise. And although I graduated with honors, I think I could have come out magna cum laude had I matriculated through the community college system first because I don't feel that I was adequately prepared. And I did my senior year in North Carolina at Page High School, and I wasn't prepared for anything, not the FAFSA, but not anything. And so that was interesting to me, but just wanted to get your take on that.
Okay, that is a typical experience, and I love your story because the term non-traditional is evolving, and I'm sorry, I should have cut that down. The term non-traditional is evolving into something that looks different than it did 10 years ago. So when we used to say non-traditional, we would automatically think a student that's 25 or older, maybe have an employment history of 10 years or more, someone that is coming to school later, does not have a higher educational experience, but that is changing.
Absolutely.
Non-traditional students are getting younger and younger, okay, like yourself. So your story is really becoming the profile of the student that we're getting and the students that the four-year colleges are getting. And so we've had to modify our approach and understanding of students because what we see is that students that are coming to us, whether they're 35, 45, 25, or 18, are still missing some of the basic elements of what they may need to succeed. And not to say they're not intelligent, is that they have responsibilities.
Absolutely. So my question to you is, do you think that that goes beyond academics at some point? Because, and I asked this question, my sister, my younger sister actually went to the GTCC Middle College, and I want to say she did maybe 1 or 2 years, because it took her a minute to get in. But academic-wise, she's there. Socially, not. So I, in turn, as a adult practitioner, future adult practitioner, would view her as a non-traditional student because she's not really meshing with the, she goes to UNC Charlotte, she's not really meshing with the university experience or the collegiate lifestyle. And so I feel that a community college lifestyle would have been much better for her and it was much easier. So do you view those students as non-traditional when it's not just the academics or the socioeconomic status or marital status or anything like that?
Maybe not in the literal sense, but in the social sense, yes.
Okay.
Because we're now trying to reach students younger and younger with the early middle college program. We're now recruiting in the high schools and the middle schools. We talked about that last night. Students aren't really ready to go into the world until they're really 25, 26 today. We're kind of mothered, you use that term, we're kind of mothered and kind of shielded from life later in life. And whereas our parents, our grandparents left home at 16, 17, 18, we have folks that are staying in the home till they're 30. I mean, of course, we don't advocate that. But of course, it's tougher out here. It's harder to find a job. So the economy has changed, but you have individuals who are really becoming mature later. Although they have adult responsibilities, whether that's a child or a car or a job, they're still not really ready to handle the academic environment in some instances. So we're having to do a lot to address that.
I agree.
We have mentoring programs for female students, for male students. We have tutoring labs where students can get together, get information they need, the support they need. But that mothering, that other mother term that you use, is very practical. And I would say other father too. I would add that in there, other brother, other cousin.
I'll do the research and put that term in there.
Put it in there.
And look specifically at African American male professors in higher education.
Definitely do that.
My second question for you is, do many of the students express an interest in graduate school at the community college?
Yes. And when you say many, most, few, of course, you know, being in graduate school, you know, you can't go but so far with those terms.
Absolutely.
And so to say many, I wouldn't use that term necessarily.
Okay.
I would say a respectable percentage
Okay.
of students want to matriculate into graduate school, but I think most students want to have that terminal technical experience, like we talked about last night.
Yeah, I was going to say, from my understanding of the conversation last night, the reason you wouldn't use that term is because everybody's not here for that. Everybody doesn't want that and to begin with. So the idea typically is not to come to the community college and automatically transfer, but to get like those daycare classes. I mean, those certification classes to work at a daycare and be done with it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's definitely the case.
So, do you feel that attending a community college is a solid stepping stone for the university bound student, for that student in that 2-year track or that transfer track?
Oh, definitely.
And that's because of things we've already pretty much discussed on the support system and getting the basics that they needed before they enter the rigorous programs.
Right.
Okay. Do most of the students you assist feel that they are getting an education equal to that provided by four-year institutions' freshman and sophomore programs?
We need to do some work on that.
Okay.
As you talked about earlier, and even we talked about last night, there's still a little bit of a stigma. I don't think students generally feel like they're getting the same, although they are. I think they feel like they're getting exactly what they need without the fluff. So that's why some students choose to go to an ITT or a ECPI or a DeVry, because they just want the basics. So I think sometimes when students come to us, they know they're getting the basics unless they really want to transfer. Okay. So the qualifications of our instructors are the same.
That's what
they're SACS accredited. They can teach mostly on the university level, except for some of our technical courses, because in technical programs, you don't necessarily need a master's degree or a doctorate. You just need the experience and the certification. And of course, the teaching experience is always good. So you don't find the same level of qualifications, but again, when a student is going through a college transfer program, those professors can teach on the university level.
Okay.
So they're getting the same information. We use the same textbooks. We use the same SLOs, student learning objectives in many cases. And we talked about articulation agreements last night and being co-enrolled. That's why we had those partnerships, because we're held to the same standard. North Carolina A&T has to go through SACS reaccreditation. So does GTCC.
Okay.
And so do all the community colleges in North Carolina. So we're held to the same standard.
Okay. One of the articles talked about the professors at a university. Yes, they have their PhDs and they have all these degrees. However, the focus is more so on the research and not the actual teaching. So the students in turn lack. You say you have this knowledge to give to your students, but they're not really getting the practical piece of it. Like, they're not getting your everything. Kind of like Ms. Free said. She said, I am my students' everything last night, which was profound to me, because I feel like Dr. Wallace is some kind of, like, I know for mine, she's like my everything. I go to her for everything.
Right.
So, but you don't get that a lot. And I got it a little bit in my social work program, and I feel like that's only because it was social workers. They had been in the field, so they're different from whether I was in engineering or some other program where some of my friends were, that they didn't feel they were getting that support. So with the article, it was stating you get the teaching more so and the students benefit better at the community college because there is no research focus or takeaway for that professor. So that is their sole duty. Do you feel that that's an adequate representation of that, or no, because as we discussed last night, some faculty and administrators are in multiple roles, so it's that area still may be lacking, so it's kind of the both for both institutions?
Yeah, I think it's an asset, and I think that us not having that publish or perish situation as you would on the university level really benefits us, because when I was in the classroom, I was able to focus on teaching. I was able to focus on working with students. I was able to focus on networking in the community and doing anything to improve my program. I wouldn't have necessarily that flexibility on the university level. I would probably have a class of 300 students, and I would have my graduate assistant probably teaching or helping me check papers. And so all of that creates barriers in relationship between the instructor and the student. You reading that student's paper for yourself and understanding where their deficits are makes a huge difference. You emailing that student one-on-one instead of having your GA or your secretary do it makes a difference. It's about building relationships. So I understand that the setting is different, but I will say that's something that is really an asset for us. Teaching, working with our own students. We don't have an assistant. We don't have a GA. We don't have pressure to publish a book or publish 3 articles within a year. Even though some community college instructors and administrators are doing that now. Their interest is very high. But not having that pressure really benefits us, and I think that's a good thing, and that's something that we need to retain.
I agree with that. Do you feel that community colleges spend more energy guiding students toward vocational programs or towards advanced education?
A little bit of both. It really just depends on the student. We see students from all walks of life. As I said last night, we have a student that wants to get a certificate in plumbing, and we have that student that wants to transfer to Duke for pre-law. Having that wide mix of students in your class and on your campus makes a huge difference. And so we have to be prepared for anyone. We have to be prepared for any level of goal that the student may have.
And I know this kind of feels like some things we discussed last night. I wish we could have recorded that interview. But I think the reason for that question being a part of our set is that the text, of course, and the articles, there's a myth that you push them more towards one thing than the other. But as we found out last night, the focus here is the student. What do you want to do? And pretty much that student finding themselves and exactly where they're good at. And like I think it was Ms. Jones pointed out that if a student is waiting on one of your nursing programs or the dental assisting program and they don't qualify to get in, they point them to other options that they may qualify for that's within that same track to help them navigate their way.
Right.
So I think that kind of answers that question in saying it's what you're coming here for, what you ultimately want to do, and having to choose rather than spinning the wheel and wasting financial aid for years, which most students in the past have done. This is what we got from the text. I didn't know if it was true.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Because I was going to ask one of the students that spoke on the panel last night. They said they had been there for 3 years. Have you like maxed out your financial aid with those developmental courses, or then what do you do for the students?
That's a tough situation for a lot of students. And you know, you have to look at the other side too. Not everyone is ready to choose a major when they first go to school. Not everyone knows what their talents and gifts are and where their interests are. I mean, it takes some time. So I think we need to assist students in that process more. You just can't sit across from a student and say, okay, here's the book. Here are 3 things. What do you like? You know, what do you see yourself doing?
In undergrad, we had a lot of the nursing majors come over to like social work and sociology and psychology. And so it was fun. Those are like on the opposite end of the spectrum. I was like, what are you doing? Like, nursing was the thing to do? Or, so I agree on both institution levels that a lot of the students are just picking something, or that higher education is becoming a fad or thing to do instead of actual career-driven students. Are the students at the community college level provided with advisement services equal to those in the university? I think I know your answer, but I want to.
Yes. And yes. Sometimes even better.
I was going to say.
Yeah, sometimes even better. I think we've done some things in the last year with the support of Ms. Jones and all of student services to address those individual needs.
Absolutely. And when you have a student who clearly displays little to no aptitude for higher education, what do you tell them?
And again, I teach classes. I don't work with students on that level. But I think if you're a counselor, an instructor, I think we're all very honest with students. We don't want them to burn up their financial aid. We don't want them to waste their time. We don't want our time to be wasted, actually. So I think what happens is some type of intervention, if you will. Look, I know you want to be an electrical engineer. You just failed 2 math classes. Let's talk about something else. Is this the best fit? Do you need some tutoring? What assistance do you need? So I think those conversations are taking place.
So trying to find the root of why those classes were failed before moving them totally to another idea. To see the reasons why. So that other mothering and other fathering.
That's it. That's it. I mean, like yourself and like I experienced, I wanted to be a psychologist. I made a D in my first psychology class at UNCG. I still ended up going into a counseling field and still doing that, but I need to figure out what the deficit was. So the instructor, fortunately, just didn't give up on me. But there are some things I just needed to know and learn.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that person said, you're not going to be a counselor. You can't be a psychologist. You need to change your major.
Because you have and I think that starts in middle school, high school, sometimes elementary even, with and one of the students on the panel, the student from, I think she was from Maryland, I can't remember, Delaware.
Yeah.
She mentioned the make it or break it in those conversations, and I was a job coach, or a graduation coach at Carver High School in Winston. And a lot of my students were told that, and so they have no aspirations to go to community college or a university, and so it's hard to even get them to want to graduate from high school. So I think that those conversations, like you all said, targeting that middle school age, is going to be very vital to the success or continuation of our society as a whole.
Definitely.
What are some of the biggest problems or concerns students express regarding their decisions to attend community college as the first step towards a degree?
Oh man, money. Having enough money. Having the time.
Having enough money to come here. They think the community college is expensive or something.
Yeah.
And that's because of the population of students typically. So if it's not a specific certificate program or vocational technical program, you typically get lower SES students looking at the community college versus universities, but they're still concerned about the tuition.
They're concerned about the tuition because what's happening, or what has happened, is that many students are coming to us who have been laid off. They don't have any other options. They have to be retrained. They're trying to find another career. So many students use their financial aid as their sole source of income. I mean, it's the same thing that's happening on the university level, but in a different way. So when you have a person that has a child or children that has rent to pay, that doesn't have the luxury of staying in a dorm where food is already prepared, they have shelter, this person has to pay for their apartment or their home or their car, transportation or medical bills. And so students are financially strained.
So my question with that is, a lot of students, university level and community college level, try to live off their refunds. But I think the students that are, in this particular question, that are concerned about the cost, because you said that was one of their highest concerns, expressed concerns, they're like thinking, I have to pay this back. I'm broke right now, and I need this education, but I don't really want that because I still have to pay this back. Whereas I don't think that students attending the four-year institutions without those scholarships, I don't think they're looking at that. I think they're looking at just going, getting that college experience, using those refunds to do whatever have you, and assuming when they get their bachelor's that they're going to have this high-paying job to pay that back. Do you agree that some of the students coming to community college are looking at, I have to pay that back, that's why tuition is a concern for me?
Yeah, I don't think they're looking at they have to pay that back.
Okay.
I think they're doing the same stuff.
Okay.
Trying to survive month to month. And if a person doesn't choose a major that is going to grant them $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year salary, and they have loans of $30,000 plus, you know, what's going to happen there? Because that's what's going on with a lot of students. They want to pursue an engineering degree, or they want to pursue, I don't know, early childhood development. And we know that you're not paid a whole lot in that field.
Yes.
I mean, you can own the daycare, but the everyday worker is probably lucky to make more than $20,000, $25,000 a year.
Right.
But they have loans in excess possibly of $30,000, $40,000. So, you know, we're constantly trying to navigate that with students and make sure they choose the right major that's going to net them the money that they need to survive.
I was going to say that was something in undergrad in a research class that I looked at doing research on once I got into higher ed, and because I hate research, but I'm interested in it. I just don't like the process of doing it.
Right. And you'll probably make a good researcher, though. We can talk about that later. It's funny how that happens. People that usually hate something are usually the best at it.
Okay, but I wanted to look at why students are choosing certain majors and career paths, but are not looking at the field and what jobs are available, and possibly looking at, is this going to be something that I'm still have 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Doctors are always needed. Nurses are always needed.
Right.
You know, they're not, but they're not choosing those fields, or they're choosing fields like, for my field, undergrad social work, for instance, where people get in those positions and lock them down until they retire, and you're just stuck, or you have to go to some rural area, city, to get the position.
Right. And people are running from certain careers just because they're afraid of math. Many students have a math phobia. And so you're a person, okay, all right. So someone that probably want to be a chemist can't do the, what is it called, equations? Yeah. And, they run away from math. And so your former nurse, like you said, is now a social worker.
Yep.
Okay. So that's happening too.
I see it. With the high immigration numbers so prevalent in our modern community college setting, do you feel that all students are being given an equal opportunity to reach their academic goals in a timely manner, if at all?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And lastly, for this set of questions, I wanted to ask you are you a parent?
Yes.
Okay. As a parent who has every intention of seeing your child graduate from a university with a degree someday, would you be comfortable with them securing their first 2 years of higher education?
Oh, wow.
At a
See,
community
y'all are wrong for that. See, I tell you what. But, that's a good question. And as you spoke to earlier, we do have the early middle college program on the community colleges. Sure. I'm an advocate of it. I know the power of it. If my daughter came to me and said, I want to go to G-Tech for the first 2 years, I would say, go ahead. Let's pay. Let's get it done. But of course, I would steer her into the right career. Now, we would have to talk a little bit more.
Okay.
But what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say. So I'm an advocate all the way.
That's awesome.
That's a great question.
Well, because we found it interesting, especially for some faculty that work at the community college setting and system. They're big advocates for it, for the society. But when it comes to that in-home, they're kind of like, no, Susie's going to Chapel Hill. Like, and it's like, you kind of contradict it. And you're saying what's good for my child or what's best for my child. And where you're trying to steer my child and saying they need to save money, you're not using that same thing. And that's kind of like,
that's not right.
So that's why we ask it, because
who thought of that question?
One of my group members.
That's a good one.
I had a few questions from last night's conversation and panel.
Okay.
If I can find it.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to check my message, if that's okay.
Okay.
Still recording?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just a few because a lot of them were answered. Do you feel as an administrator your duties take away from your teaching when you do teach classes, or you knowing your students? How well do you feel you know them as administrator? Because there's a difference without you seeing them every day, or them being in your classroom every day, or being Miss Free and being their advisor, their administrator, their teacher.
There is a difference, but I think it's appropriate because as an administrator, I'm representing the students more so than working with the students. I always have my ear to the ground. I take time to talk to students. I teach at night just so I can have that one-on-one contact with students more so.
Because I want to say as students, even speaking from a four-year institution level, it kind of bothers me sometimes for administrators in certain positions to represent us, but you don't know us. When have you taken the time to talk to us?
You really do.
We can never get a meeting with you. We can never, so it's kind of like, how are you adequately representing your campus or your student population and you don't know them?
You're right. You're right.
So for you to say you have your ear to the ground, that's very, I guess, reassuring for me as a student, even though I'm not attending G-Tech, that it's happening and that it matters to somebody.
It does matter. And I found out more from students just standing in the hallway. Just standing there, students coming in and going out. Sometimes I just stand there, greet students, say hello. And then some will engage. Some will look lost and confused. And you can tell that they have a question. You say, can I help you? Are you new to the campus? That really makes a difference.
Awesome. And I want to say, that's That's it, actually.
That's it.
That is
You only
it.
had one.
Everything else was kind of answered.
Okay.
And yeah, we kind of covered everything
Okay.
as to why they attend. And I think between the panel last night, the text and the articles, it's self-explanatory, especially if you're immersed in your community and this is really what you want to do, and if you've actually been going outside of the classroom setting to find information, because I can't imagine as a student looking to graduate in May not knowing these things or not looking to additional texts or resources.
Right.
So I think a lot of the questions were answered, and it's kind of self-explanatory once you learn the environment that you're interested in.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Dr. Dudley, for taking the time to interview with me
You're
today.
very welcome.
It was my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as well.
Hello, my name is Jerisha Bear, and this is Gary M. Mangle, the Associate Director of Housing Assignments at North Carolina A&T Housing Residence Life. And today we're doing an interview for my 714 Adult Education and Community College and Post-Education. So, thank you for doing the interview, Mr. Mangle.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
The first question I'd like to start off, being that you're in housing and residence life and you have daily contact with the transfer student population, do you feel that attending a community college is a stepping stone for university-bound students?
Yes, it's kind of, it also improves the education rates as far as graduation. Basically, they are already knowing what to expect as far as community college, instead of just coming in as an original freshman and having to learn the process and order or operation of the university. They kind of have an upper hand.
So, the next question, are students at the community college level provided with the same advising services equal to those of the university? So, like, for example, being that, community college students don't have options of on-campus housing, do you think that you still can provide the quality work as far as advisement to those students on options for housing?
With that being said, stop it.
Now, from your perspective, do you think students at a community college level provided with advisement services are equal to the services here at North Carolina A&T?
For me personally, from my experience, I do think it kind of hinders them from, receiving the same type of treatment as a big university as far as staying on campus, because we have the, okay, start over.
So, are students at the community college level provided with the same advisement services equal to those here at Housing and Residence Life?
From my experience, I would say no, because the statistics say that students that stay on campus are more inclined to be involved with on-campus activities. Basically, if you're staying off campus, you're not really in the mix of everything. You're not really aware of what's going on. So it's better for the students to stay on campus their freshman, sophomore year. Also their junior year, senior year, you're more focused on graduating. So it's not really that,
So you're saying for a community college student, it may be hard for them to come get more acclimated with on-campus housing, being that they came from an environment that didn't have it?
Yeah, that
didn't provide those type of services?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the next question I have is, when you come into contact with transfer students, what problems or questions do they express to you the most? What questions or concerns do you get the most?
The know-how. They don't really know how, because, know how to apply for housing, know where to, to use your resources, because they're just used to going to, class and going home. They don't really know, what the school really has to offer. It's a lot more things that we offer other than a community college.
So is your housing process easy, medium, or hard for them to maneuver through?
It's actually very easy. We send everything actually in the email step by step. It's basically just click next 3 times and you're done.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Right. And this is the last question. As a future parent or current parent who has every intention of seeing their child graduate from a university with a degree someday, would you be comfortable with them securing their first 2 years at a community college or a university setting?
It would all depends on the circumstance, do they want to stay home and work and build money up first, or do they want to just, go in and experience the college, experience? But me personally, I would rather for them to go ahead and go into a 4-year university so they can get the on-campus living experience and also have the basically university experience first also.
So you prefer the 4-year university over the community college?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you think that makes the student more well-rounded, or taking the university route, the 4-year university route, or you feel like they're being cheated in some way, or?
Me personally, education is an education no matter where you get it at. You learn the same information, it's the same base information, but as far as college experience, you can't get the college experience at a community college at a 4-year university. See what I'm saying? So it's a different atmosphere.
So you're talking about basically the development.
The development,
the
yeah.
student development a little bit more different.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mangum, I thank you for your time and your for this interview, and I take the time out to say thank you, and that is it.
Thank you.